Hello, everybody. Welcome to Clash of the Correspondents. My name's James, and today we're joined by two of our correspondents ahead of a big game in game week 12 in the Premier League. First, let me introduce you to Ali Mitchell at FPL_Gaffer, our Southampton correspondent. How are you, Ali?
Hello, all good, James. Thank you very much for having me back on, mate.
Good man. Ali, for the benefit of those on the audio, is dressed like he's going on a fucking date tonight. So welcome, mate. And I'll also introduce you to Ben Tommo Thompson at FPL_Blade, our Sheffield United correspondent. How are you, Tommo?
I'm doing okay.
Tommo's dressed like he's got a ticket for the weekend, but he hasn't really. Ali, you must be delighted with where you stand. Just the timestamp this, we're recording on Tuesday night. You obviously had a big win at Brighton last night. You must be delighted, fifth in the league.
Yeah, do you know what? Fifth is so much better than I would have hoped to have been after 11 games so far this season. You know, despite, we looked great against United last week, and it would have been really easy to have not come back in that game against Brighton last night. And I think that, losing from being 2 goals up against United, it could have really defeated the players. But you know what? They just looked really resilient. They battled last night. They looked a bit ropey in the first half, but then second half, they regained a bit of the fitness that I'm used to seeing from them so far this season. And yeah, just buzzing with it.
Oh, great, mate. What do you think? Why is it going so well? Because as you kind of just highlighted, you could have reacted very badly off the Manchester United result, but then the recovery, a difficult place to go again. I guess is you kind of the two clubs in the south. So it's almost like a derby at the moment to a certain extent. So why do you think it's going so well? Because obviously at the start, the Palace result, the Tottenham game, well documented. Then even at Chelsea, you played, which we obviously previewed together. You didn't turn up in the first half, but you played really well in the second half. It looked like conceding goals was going to be a big issue for you. And it has been in some of the bigger games. If you think about that, Tottenham, Chelsea, Manchester United conceded 3 against all of them. And you have still got to play the likes of City, Liverpool, Arsenal, if you want to include them in game week 13 as well. But in the rest of the games, you've been defending quite well. How big a role do you think Vestergaard's been playing? Because he was outstanding again on Monday night.
He has been great. You know, I've been very critical of him in the past. I mean, when I managed to get to St Mary's, he's never really put in a man of the match performance. But yeah, like you said, he has been just so pivotal at the back there. And I think the one thing I'd put it down to is fitness. The players look really, really fit. Like they're lasting for the full 90 minutes. They're pressing high. I mean, obviously, last time we were on, we were discussing the high defensive line, and how we were getting caught out. Like we played really well against Spurs, but then in the second half, we just kept getting caught out. And I was quite defeatist of the tactics that Ralph was trying to implement. But at the moment, they seem to be gelling really, really well. And the defending isn't just that back line; it's right from the front. Starting from Che Adams, who's probably one of the fittest on the team, is pressing really high. Walcott's pressing really high. We're just squeezing teams into making mistakes, and I think that's a real big difference from the Saints that was fighting relegation over the past few seasons. We've seemed to have just got a bit of form that we had from the end of last season.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll come back to some of the individuals in a bit. Obviously, want to bring Tommo into the conversation. Mate, we previewed the game same week, international break. We obviously previewed Chelsea, Southampton. We previewed your game against Fulham. You predicted before that game that you thought you'd probably get beat. Very nearly did. You knew in the first 4 games that something really wasn't right, and it's not got better. In short, can you get out of this?
I don't think so. I think we're getting buried.
Why?
Jack O'Connell is that vital to our team. We just look so unbalanced. Defensively, we look shaky. In crosses and corners, we were one of the best teams in the league last year, defending corners. We look the worst team in the league at the moment. And I think he's that vital. I think he is the most important player to any team in this league for us.
Is that part why you did so well in hindsight, reflecting last season? Last season's achievement in terms of where you end up finishing the league was a brilliant achievement. On reflection, was it better than it kind of looked to everyone because you were fortunate to go through the whole season essentially without having to change that back line?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we never changed it. It was the same team week in, week out for the most part. Apart from rotating the strikers, we had the same team. I don't think we've had the same back five back-to-back games all season this year. We're on his fifth choice left centre back right now, who's really a League One player. That's how desperate we are.
It's Kieran Bryan. He last played for you before the last couple of league games in an FA Cup game against Fylde, I think, about 2 years ago. So he's obviously not been getting a look in.
Yeah, I think he was worse on the pitch that day, if I remember right.
So what's the solution? Because all right, the reality is you're out without Connell for, we assume, the rest of the season. It's something you're going to have to deal with. The blessing for you must be, you must look at the 3 teams above you and think they're still catchable, right? Surely.
Yeah, and I think that way, right? I mean, I think we've lost 10 games, 8 of them we've lost by 1 goal. And we've been in the games. I don't say we deserve to win or draw, but we've been in all of those games. And it's like a curse. I mean, I don't think we've been great, but there's no way we should be on 1 point with the expected goals that we have. I mean, I think we're 13 goals below his expected goals. It's just, I can't explain it. It's painful.
You've got that awful combination at the moment, mate, where you're not scoring goals, you're not keeping clean sheets. O'Connell is obviously a factor. Dean Henderson as well, mate.
Yep, Henderson's a factor.
So when we spoke before, I stressed concerns about Ramsdale. You were kind of up in the air about it, but he's a drop off, unfortunately, isn't he?
Yeah, and I think now with this sequence of losses, it's affecting his confidence, and he's getting blamed for everything. I don't think he's at fault for all the goals, honestly. But anytime the ball goes near him, I'm worried. I mean, he dropped one at the weekend, an easy cross that they didn't score from. He's made a couple of some good saves. I still think he's a good young goalkeeper, but it's hard to judge as well because it's not the same defence that Henderson had last season. So obviously Henderson's a better goalkeeper, I'm not arguing that, but also the drop-off in defence is drastic as well in front of him.
So what's he going to end up doing once you get players back fit? Are we looking at Ender Stevens playing left-sided centre-half?
Yeah, I think he's going to put Stevens back at left centre-half, which is a little worrying because the height, he's not the tallest of players, and that's obviously affects us at corners. But I think he has to play there. I think Ampadu is the other choice, but I think we have to play Ampadu in midfield because they're like a
agreed
mobility midfield for us at the moment, and I think those 2 players have to come back. And what was interesting against the West Brom game, Jack Robinson was dropped for tactical reasons. So Wilder picked Bryan or Robinson, which is because he's been solid. I mean, he's not been great, but he's been solid. I've seen him play, but that's interesting to me. I don't understand that.
That's the first time I've ever heard you question anything about Chris Wilder's selections, I think, to be honest. On the outside, there's a lot of people thinking, why is he not under pressure? Why is his job not being called into question? Because I think, let's be honest, any other team that was on 1 point from 11 games, you'd be saying, manager's going to go. I already know the answer from you. Explain to everybody, if you can, why you want him to stay.
So if you look at the last 4 years, we've probably overachieved more than any club in the country. Right? We won League One the first year, 100 points. We nearly got playoffs second season. We beat Leeds on Wednesday and had a good season. Then we got promoted second, and then we finished top half and charting for Champions League. Right? And I think it's a combination of injuries and a combination of poor transfer window. That's guys in this role, but he's the greatest manager we've ever had, and
you can get wedded to that though. And I've kind of lived through the circumstance, very very different. But obviously, nobody at Tottenham wanted Pochettino to get sacked. But in the end, I think you had to go. Do you know what? It's going to be better for everybody. Less than 6 months after the Champions League final, saying goodbye to him just didn't feel right. But sometimes you have to make that break. And at the moment, I think outsiders would look at it and go, well, if you don't change something, nothing's going to change. You're going to keep conceding enough goals to lose games. You're not going to score goals to win games. Therefore, it's rinse and repeat. I agree that obviously if he stays, you'll be in the best position to come back up. And he might even keep you up. But it could be that you get someone in, you've actually got decent fixtures coming up, and you might get a little bounce, and suddenly you're 18th, 17th. And from there, it could all change very quickly. At the moment, I don't think anybody on the outside sees any change. We all looking at it going, I just can't see them winning games.
Yeah. No, I mean, I agree with that. I just don't see what we're going to get. We play a unique formation. We have unique tactics. We don't have the players to change and go playing full midfield. We have no wingers in the squad. We're stuck to what we have, right? We built the team to play like we have, and I think he deserves to stay. I mean, if we want to come back up next season, we need Chris Wilder in charge, in my opinion. If we go down.
All right. To give you a stat, guys, between the two of you, and Tomo, this doesn't make pretty reading for you. Southampton's XG this year, 14.45, scored 21. Sheffield United's XG this year, 12.64, scored 5. There's actually, between the two of you, in expected goals so far this season, less than 2 goals difference. There are 16 goals scored difference between you.
Yeah.
So to flip it now, as Tomo shakes his head for the benefit of those on the audio, he's kind of smiling because it sums up the story. Are you massively overperforming, do you think, Ali?
I feel like the boys are putting in a real shift. I don't really want to say they're overperforming. The games I've watched, I feel like we've been good for a result. Like the United game, I could kind of see us losing, but outside of that, I think the games we've won, I think we've been pretty good for the win. Going back to that Chelsea game, the lads battled hard. They probably deserve something from it.
No, I get that completely. Have you got any Southampton assets at the moment, Ali?
Yeah, so in my team at the moment, I've got Vestergaard, and I put a little thing on Twitter because one of the lads put about needing Bednarek to score in a 1-0 win, and I said, yeah, to get 100 points. And I said, yeah, me too, but I actually need Vestergaard to grab 7. And at half-time, I was like, all right, he's got 1.
Only 6 to go.
More.
Brilliant.
Yeah,
and the clean sheet's gone.
Yeah. So I do have Vestergaard at the moment.
Che Adams is the one that's picked up a bit of attention, particularly last week. And obviously, I think we'll do ahead of the game this week. You've obviously got Sheffield United this weekend, Fulham in a couple of weeks as well. So it's of interest to people. Where would you stand now? We spoke about it a lot sort of in pre-season and stuff on the idea of Danny Ings is obviously back fit, come back with a goal on Monday evening. Where would you stand on between the two of them now if someone was to ask you if money wasn't concerned? Would you say, look, generally speaking, I think you're better off saving the money and spreading? Or would the advice be, Danny Ings is back, go and get him?
Yeah, so I have actually had a couple of DMs following last night's game already. And so what I've said to people is that I think in an ideal world, you wait one more game week to see is he fit enough to last the 70 minutes? Because I think there's a bit of speculation about him last night, and I think he was brought on to kind of make a difference, and he did do that. I think you're waiting one more game week. If you're looking to be aggressive, you might be bringing him in. But if you're just looking to contain a little bit, maybe you don't risk that just yet because he's not going to be in that many live teams. And if you look at your mini league opponents, he's not going to be in many of their teams. So you don't need to gamble unless you're looking to be aggressive. So ideally, you hold Che Adams if you've got him or neither, and just see what happens against Sheffield United.
Yeah, I'm on Che Adams myself, and my intention was to get him up till the Fulham game. I've still got my first wild card, so I'll be using it afterwards. It's very short-term thinking for myself. Have you got any at the moment, Tomo?
Yeah, I've got McCarthy. I did Martinez McCarthy.
So you got McCarthy and Martinez?
No, I switched them.
So. Oh, you switched them. So McCarthy's just your goalkeeper now.
Yeah.
I was going to say, would you pick McCarthy over Martinez this game week?
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I picked Sam Johnston, so he came on.
Yeah. Drop that, Ali. Me too, mate. Yeah. Forget that, mate. So you picked Sam Johnston. You haven't got McCarthy.
No, because I've got Vestergaard. When I took Martinez out, I didn't want that double up, and I mean, it wouldn't have benefited me that much. But just looking at the 0 is so painful.
I have to say, when I do my deadline streams every weekend, a lot of the questions I often get is, should I pick Walker Peters or Luke Ayling, for example, this weekend? Oh, by the way, I've already got McCarthy as well. I feel like there's a lot of people that have been on double Southampton quite quietly since the start.
Yeah,
that's how it feels.
Yeah,
because these guys, McCarthy, Walker Peters, and the like, were really popular sort of pre-game week 1. What would you say to people that are still on the double?
Yeah, I think like if you look at the Premier League table as a whole, you kind of think your top sort of 4 or 5 teams, they're your premium assets. Your bottom teams, you might have 1 or 2 bits of bench fodder from them, and then the mid-table, you're looking for your sort of mid-priced sort of Grealish, Zaha, that sort of thing. But we are, we're 5th in the table, so we're performing well. We're scoring goals. We're not conceding many goals, however you want to look at it, and our players are affordable, right? So apart from Danny Ings, you're looking at budget-friendly players. Like our defence, 4.5 million on average. Midfielders, I wouldn't personally be investing in the midfield, but if you're going to go for someone like James Ward-Prowse or Walcott, cheaper than Grealish, cheaper than Zaha. So yeah, like if you've got the double up and we're playing well at the moment, hold him.
What do you think happens with Walcott now? Because obviously on Monday night he kind of stayed on when Djenepo came off for Ings at half time. He shoved out to left. Walcott can obviously play left, right. He's played the link position between midfield and striker really well, actually. I've been quite impressed with him. Now Ings is fit as well, and Redmond is back as well. What's your instinct there? Does Walcott come out the team, or is it a case of just sort of slowly building Redmond and Ings' fitness up, do you think?
Yeah, I think he holds his place at the moment. I mean, in terms of an FPL asset, I think he's going to be very similar to Redmond. I wouldn't be going for him. I think he'll be a try harder on the pitch, but I don't see him generating that many returns. I really hope I'm wrong, but I've backed Redmond for long enough and been disappointed, and I just feel like as an FPL asset, Walcott's probably not worth the investment. But I do think he'll hold his place in the squad.
Fair to say though, Ali, surely he's done better than even you would have expected.
Yeah, I mean, on the last podcast, and on Twitter, I was I wasn't overly excited. I didn't think he was what we needed. I didn't think he enhanced our starting 11 at all, and I'm really pleased to be eating my own words here and just sort of holding my hands up and say he's been a real asset to the team, kind of real advocate for that fitness that we were talking about earlier. He is leading by example and pressing really high, and he's not the springiest of chickens, if that's an expression. He's not the youngest of players, but he is pressing high and he's trying his arse off.
Springist. You want to trademark that, mate. Yeah. Tommo, I'll take you back to 2015 for a moment, if I can. It's January. League Cup semi-final, second leg. There was a player that night who put the Frighteners up my team at Bramall Lane, and his name was Che Adams. I presume it's a career that you've probably followed a little bit. Is there anything you can add to the conversation in terms of how his career's developed since he left you?
Yeah, I always liked him. I think we had him, and we also had Calvert-Lewin. We also had the same squad while they both sold.
There's your forward line problem sorted, mate.
But he's always been good, and I thought he was a player that we should have probably gone for instead of McBurney. Right, when Southampton bought him for around, I think it was around the similar price.
Yeah, it would have been.
Because it's just someone we need to run beyond. He reminds me somewhat of a younger Callum Wilson kind of type player that runs beyond people, scores goals. He's clinical, and that's one thing about Southampton. Him and Ings, I mean, they're just clinical, right? When Ings gets a chance, it scores. I don't know if you watched the West Brom game, but I could have had 4 goals in that game.
Yeah, I did, mate. It should have been about 3-3, I think. Or God knows how you didn't score. The one, looking at the numbers, that's probably going to be the one that frustrated, obviously, is McBurney, who did score at the weekend. You just mentioned him. Perhaps he wasn't the player you should have bought going back 18 months or so ago. His XG is double any other player in your team. He's had double the shots of any other player in your team. Is he the right fit as the best partner for, I presume the intention really soon is to get Brewster in the team, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's the partnership he's got to go with now. I mean, Burke flies to deceive. He's strong, he's fast, he gets in behind, but he just falls over. I mean, there was one in the West Brom game, the first minute, he was in a great position, fell over. And there was a huge in that game when Burke went through against, he only took a knock it past Schmeichel, he would have scored. He fell over again. It just so frustrating.
He's been trying hard, and I think the one thing he's been able to give you when he's played is he stretches legs in behind and that, but composure-wise, it looks like there's none. He actually looks like the sort of player who's going to fall over when he gets there. So you think McBurney-Brewster would be the best pairing, do you?
I think we just got to run with it now, right? I mean, if we go down, that's going to be the strike force next season, so why not start now? I mean, McBurney's amazing in the air. I think he's won more aerial duels than any player in the league by a long way. I mean, he was fantastic against Leicester. he was the one player that stood out to me, and got the goal, chipped for him to get the goal. I know he's had so many chances, but he works his socks off. He holds the ball well, and I think he's a good partnership for Brewster. But we talked about this last time I was on, right? That was the partnership we talked about. It was him and Brewster, but for some reason Brewster's not playing.
Well, he had the little niggle, didn't he, which obviously pulled out of the England's international duty. You've obviously been frustrated. I know you're a fan of Lys Mousset, who's obviously been out injured as well, and I think he's had a setback as well, hasn't he, apparently?
Yeah, he rolled his ankle, I think, before West.
So I feel like Brewster is going to need someone to play with him that's going to kind of cuddle him, hold his hand, to let him try and do the explosive things that any Liverpool fan will tell you that he's quite capable of doing. But I think he needs someone to take all the physical knocks for him that allows that to be a possibility. And I think McBurney, with his rugged style, is the obvious one to fall into that. When the ball goes long to McBurney, go and run off him. Trust that he's going to win it. The amount of times I see even he wins a header and it goes beyond and there's nothing. No one's gambling on winning the header because he's decent in the air.
Yeah, he's good.
I don't think he's the best finisher. He's not the sort of guy that's going to get you enough goals, but he might bring on Brewster enough. What would you say to people that own Brewster at the moment? Because it's an obvious weekly dilemma. Play him, don't play him.
I think he's going to get his chance now. I think he's going to put him in. I think 4.5 is perfect, especially everyone's trying to get Salah, De Bruyne, Bruno Fernandes, Son. That everyone seems to be going towards that heavy midfield. I think Brewster's the one player at that price point where he's going to get you at least a point, right? I mean, or 2 points a week. So I think he's perfect to put in there as your third striker and first sub.
There's a lot of people be sitting there with, say, I don't know, the regular weekly argument, Brewster and Soucek, for example. A balance of, okay, I'll make week-to-week decisions which one I'm going to pick. At the moment, it'd be difficult to make a case to pick Brewster over, say, Soucek, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's got a Soucek at the moment, but something's got to change.
So. I feel like that's with hope, Tommo, and you must maintain the hope, even if you don't have the optimism at the moment.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'd say that. I don't know what's worse. What's worse, losing by one goal and being in all these games and just not taking your chances or getting smashed 5-1 every week? I don't know. I kind of feel like getting beat 5-1.
To be honest, it's quite simple. You only have to look at the numbers, Tommo. If you'd scored goals, you wouldn't be in this position. I'm not saying you wouldn't be in the bottom four, but you definitely wouldn't be on 1 point, mate. It's as simple as that. And as much as O'Connell's a massive miss, as I've said on our podcast, the imbalance is completely obvious now in terms of it actually looks like Baldock and Basham are the two players that are going to open opposition up, if anyone. It's just not on the left-hand side at all. The goalkeeper, okay, he's not as good, but he's not the worst goalkeeper on the planet. Find a way to score goals. The other thing that feels like it's really stopped, Tommo, is like things like last year, like Fleck and Lundstrom bursting into the box. It's like it's stopped. Why is that?
Like it's a shadow of the player he was before, shut down from last season. That's a huge problem for me. I don't know if that's injuries or lack of match fitness. He's just not been good. Lundstrom, I thought he was very good when he came on against West Brom. I thought he was easily our best midfielder, but he doesn't want to be there. His bags are half packed, right? He's ready to get out the door.
Yeah, but I don't think you can be in. I agreed with the sentiment at the time. Okay, he's decided he doesn't want to sign a new contract. He comes out of the team. But if he's good enough to be in the 11, you can't afford to be sentimental about it. Play him. All right, he's going to leave. He's going to leave next year. But if he's the best player, play him. Right?
He has to play right now. But the one that disappoints me the most is Burge because he has so much ability, but he walks around. He seems to be in first gear all the time. It's so frustrating. He shows flashes in every game when he goes past 2 or 3 people and breaks something open. He did that for the Berg chance at the weekend, but then he disappears for another 30 minutes. So it's really frustrating.
Yeah, it feels like that energy in the midfield from last year has kind of gone. We all looked at it last year and went, okay, Norwood's going to sit. As soon as he gets the ball, it's going to get sprayed out to the wing backs. You're going to push on. Centre-backs are going to join in. It was quite obvious what was happening. And you knew that second balls and that, Fleck and Lundstrom are going to be running onto it. And I agree. None of those 3 players, all bringing Burge into the conversation, none of them are doing any better than what they were doing 9-10 months ago. Definitely not.
Yeah, Norwood's gone. His legs are gone. He can't even cross the ball past the first man now. I know what's happened to him. He won one of the best crosses of the ball last season. He's just gone. It's like every position at the moment. I can't explain it. But the midfield, I think we have the worst midfield in the league at the moment.
It's kind of hard when you're on that downward spiral, though. I mean, I go back to what James said earlier. You're on 1 point, which isn't great. But when you do grind out that first win, like if it is against us, you're then only 1 win away from coming out of the relegation zone. Like the teams above you are catchable. It's just like it's hard when you're losing, and like James said earlier, the fans are onto you, the board are onto the manager a little bit, and it's hard to get out of that rut, isn't it?
Yeah, especially when Jimmy Boyce goes in the last minute and kicks the corner flag over. I mean, it's like, it's just cherry on top, right?
The kicks that it always feels like everybody gets, I think, when you're down there. Even Ali will know from periods his team's been down there. You feel like sometimes you just can't get the rub of anything. I mean, remarkably, with what happened with his team last year, it took the biggest beating of Premier League history to actually turn the fortunes of the club around quite remarkably. Talking of midfields, Ali, yours is impressing a lot at the moment. I'm a big fan of Romeo. I think he really is a good player. He's almost, I'd say, in terms of form, he's not far off the best at what he's doing in the league in terms of protection. Every pass is simple and played with precision. The tempo is quick. They play like that without the ball as well. JWP really finally now might be an FPL option.
I think that, Romeo's kind of stepped into, I mean, Højbjerg was great, right? There's no surprise that Spurs were desperate to sign him up, but
it's a
like
surprise from what I saw in game week 1. I can assure you, mate. He's got a lot better since.
Yeah, for sure. I think the commentators are talking about his relationship with Jose and how he just seems to be a Jose type player, like a workhorse. But I think, like you say, Romeo has stepped up. Like he's performing head and shoulders above, what I could have anticipated for him. I'm excited to see what happens when Diallo kind of gets into the team, breaks into that team a little bit more. But Ward-Prowse, I mean, his price is just, I mean, I mentioned him earlier, like 6.2, and he's cheaper than Grealish, but is he quite as effective as Grealish? I'm not too sure. His set pieces are good, like no doubts about it. If we're scoring from a corner or a free kick, then he's getting you an assist, which is nice. And he's on 61 points at the moment, which is almost double any other of our midfielders. So that says something that, we've got Armstrong sat in there who picked up a bit of an injury, Walcott who's grabbed the goal, Gineppo, and Ward-Prowse is head and shoulders above them. So it's really exciting.
Of those 61 points that JWP's got, 49 of them in the last 6 game weeks. Nobody has scored more. I know, right?
Nice.
So him and Bruno Fernandes over the last 6 game weeks. What's interesting, obviously, is when you compare the two, just to do that. And I know it's an unfair comparison. Ward-Prowse XG 0.58 over that period. Bruno Fernandes 2.84. XA Ward-Prowse 0.86. Bruno Fernandes 3.37. Essentially, Ward-Prowse has got about double the FPL points in that period that he should do according to statistics. However, because everything that comes from him return-wise, and again Monday night, is from set pieces, be it corners, wide free kicks, or, he's the best dead ball striker of a ball in the league, in my opinion, that his XG and that kind of thing doesn't matter because he's not going to score. He's not going to score a tap-in from 6 yards out. He never breaks into the box.
That's it. He's not like a Lundstrom from last year. He's not trying to getting in behind the strikers and sort of giving them another option. His XG comes from the ball being dead outside of the box, right? So any goals, like you say, any goals that he scores is going to be from set pieces, and you're just excited when we pick up a foul on the edge of the box. You just get that little bit of feeling like you're beginning to think he's more likely to score this than he is to miss it, which is so nice as a fan.
I know you don't want to give away secrets, but he goes over the wall every single time. He never goes round it or under it. It's always over near post every single time. Everybody knows it, and yet nobody can stop it. Is there any theory amongst Southampton fans how you do go about stopping it?
I think, he's not quite as clever as like Kevin De Bruyne, who's going to go under the wall, or he's going to go to the side the keeper's standing at because the keeper might move. But it's kind of like a weird comparison, but kind of like Mohamed Salah when he had his sort of record-breaking season, and I think he scored 4 against Watford, and it's like, sort of rinse, repeat, run down the right-hand side, cut in onto your left, bang it, top bins. And it's like, how is that so difficult to stop? And I think it's just that quality, that technique. the speed he gets behind his free kicks. Like, he's not a big lad. He's got a small frame, but the whip he's putting behind that ball just makes it so difficult for keepers. And I think they're a little bit worried about just how clever he is, because, you know, they're not going to cheat. They're not going to stand near post, because, of course, then it goes the other side, right? So he's just so technically brilliant with it.
He's absolutely deadly. He's the best in the business at it. I think what you'll see quite often now is you'd almost prefer your players to take, if Danny Ings is edge of the box, you'd almost prefer him to just take the shot from 25 yards rather than give the free kick away. I think that it's become conscious. Like, I see changes in teams now at the moment in terms of hands behind the back in the penalty area. Don't make challenges in the penalty area, because any sort of contact, you know, it's a penalty these days. And it's almost a bit like that on the edge of the box.
You rolled your eyes a little bit there. You rolled your eyes a little bit there, didn't you?
Who, me?
But, yeah, any little bit of contact.
To be honest, mate, you know, and I know that weren't a penalty Monday night, mate.
Mate, I tweeted
exactly.
it, like, I'll take it. Like, it is like, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Any bit of contact, and the eye roll is completely justified, mate, because, you know, it's just not the same as when I was sort of growing up, and yeah, it's just a bit different.
It wasn't aimed specifically at you, but since you mentioned it, mate.
I'm just saying, it's quite funny, because I feel the same way. Like,
I think every football fan feels at the moment, like, genuinely speaking, whether it's your team or not, no one wants to see that penalty be a penalty. No. Seriously. No one wants to see the Danny Welbeck one against Liverpool be a penalty. Nobody wants to see these incidents be penalties. Brighton have had one there go for them, one against them. To be honest, that one, it's outside the box, though. They've actually overturned the referee's correct decision. Anyway.
I don't see that. I'd like to see a team that's maybe 3 or 4 goals up win a penalty like that and just stick it wide. Like I think Ronaldinho did many moons ago. I can't remember the situation, but it kind of resonates with me. And then just stick it wide and just sort of say, do you know what, we're taking a bit of a stand to it. But at 1-1, I also can't blame Danny for.
Danny Ings is not going to go. Never know if he's inside the box or not. You put the ball down and you score, mate. That's his job. So no. Tommo, Ampadu. We spoke about him as potentially being holding midfield. Your fixture run generally, it's not bad. This is the key period for you, right? Southampton United next 2. I think, fine, difficult fixtures. Saints won both games last year. But then Brighton, Everton, Burnley, Crystal Palace, Newcastle, up to the end of game week 18. What a massive Christmas and early January period. Are you capable of putting the results together at the back? And is Ampadu the one? If we were to consider it as a differential, there's a lot of people going to be looking at sort of blanks doubles around about this time as well. It could fall that you have a really nice, particularly blank game week fixture if you end up playing in the blank. Someone like Ampadu be a serious consideration for people at 4.4.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think he's going to play, whether it's left centre back or a holding midfield role. And I think, is he 4.4 now?
He is 4.4, yeah.
He's the one I would pick for sure at his price, but
he'll definitely come back in, won't he?
Oh, 100%. I think he's straight back in the team.
It's just a question of where, I guess.
Yeah, I think he's been good. He played that holding midfield role against Liverpool. I thought he was really good. He's played left centre back one time. He played well. I think he came off injured. I played 1.5 games. I came off injured. Someone. West Ham. Came off injured against West Ham. And then he's played centre back for Egan when he was suspended. And he's played well in all positions. And I've watched him for Wales a couple of times. I think he's a very good player. And I know all the Wales fans love him, right?
If he plays at the back, it'll be left-sided centre-half, I guess, unless like that occasion when you obviously had Egan missing. And then I guess Ender Stevens comes in for Lowe at left wing-back.
I think so. I think maybe Ben Osborne might start there now. Lowe looks just... I think it's just too early for him. I think he needs another season in the Championship. He's not been awful, but he's not been great. So...
Does the same apply to Jayden Bogle, who we've not seen any of as well, who was also bought in the summer?
Yeah, someone asked Wilder on his interview last week, and he said there's just been too many changes to the team. He's a young player. And obviously, I think Bogle's probably our best player this season consistently. He's been the one trying, so I think he's just said it's just too many changes, unfortunately. But I know a lot of United fans want to see him because he was the one out of the two of those in that deal where we were most excited about, even for an attacking change in second half and take Baldock off, because defensively Baldock's fantastic, but his crossing and when he gets in the box is I mean, he should have had a hat-trick against
At West Brom. Yeah. Oh, he was the worst culprit of all.
That's one of the worst misses I've ever seen. I missed it.
No, I think that was the one Brewster and his mate failed to put in when it was on the line, mate.
Maybe after.
The reason I part asked that is one of the things, and you've already mentioned it, we've discussed on the main podcast the idea of trying to find a way to change the system. And the argument is correctly what you pointed out. You don't have the players to go and play with two wingers, for example. But could you work something where Stevens and Lowe played together and Baldock and Bogle played together and perhaps Bogle played ahead of Baldock, for example, and you look at, I don't know, a 4-4-1-1 or something like that for a little while, just to change the shape. And to be honest, it feels like one of the things really missing at the moment, the kind of theme regarding all your players is none of them are performing as well as last year. So give them something in the team that just feels a bit fresh and new. Otherwise, they're just bashing their heads and doing the same thing over and over.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think we've changed to four at the back in a few games towards the end, like 25 minutes, and we've looked solid and it's looked a little bit better. And maybe that's something we can do, or maybe even a 4-3-3, and play Mousse, if he's ever fit, but Mousse and Brewster and McBurney, or put McGoldrick in the 10. I just got to do something different. I can't keep doing the same thing over and over. But it seems that's where Wilder's going to go.
I agree. Could he play in a wide position, McGoldrick?
Potentially. I mean, he works his socks off, right? I mean, he's took a dip. He definitely took a dip this season too when he's played. But like I said, it's across the board.
Well, at least he's got a couple of goals this year, mate.
Yeah, no, he is.
It's more than I can say for most of the rest of the team.
Scoring. Everyone else is stopped.
I'll never forget your reaction when you scored at Arsenal, your reaction on Twitter. He scored a goal.
It's a great goal too. But, yeah.
It was. And his flick at Chelsea was good as well.
Yeah, going back to the transfers, I think we've got a bit too arrogant in this transfer window. We've gone for young players like Bogle, Lowe, Brewster, or unproven, when we could have gone for people like Wilson and people who had pedigree in this league to keep us up. I feel like we thought, we're not going to the relegation battle. We'll buy the mid-table. Let's buy some young players for the future. And now we're in this position. We've got a couple of injuries and we've got no cover. And that's kind of what I feel like. I don't know if you guys think the same, but...
What's your thoughts on them, Ali?
Yeah, I think, the kind of high finish last season maybe got to them a little bit. Kind of like we've had, to be fair, like we've had that. It wasn't too long ago we were home and away against Milan, Inter Milan, and this next season after we just sold our best players and didn't really invest in quite the same way. And it makes a big difference, just one or two names. Like,
the thing is, you spent the money on Sander Berge, though, didn't you? Right? I know it's someone who wasn't known of, but coming big money, quite a high reputation. There's a lot of clubs in Europe were looking at him, right? So that path hasn't really worked. I think it would be wrong to say that he's particularly improved you from what you were when he joined the club. I do like him. I think he's got a nice style about him, but everything feels like it's at 2 miles an hour. Like getting
good hair.
Because I think he's got the ability, actually. When you look at Southampton's boys and the output of the midfield four, I mean, we haven't spoken about Armstrong, who's playing really well as well, Ali. The energy in that midfield four, just with and without the ball, just don't stop. You're a nightmare to play against when you play well.
That's it, mate. Yeah, the press is, and super excited to see Armstrong sort of back in the team full, because he had that a few games where he wasn't quite getting the 90 minutes, but he's one of our best players and needs to be playing quite frequently. Yeah.
Just one more I wanted to ask you, obviously, Ali. You obviously went for Vestergaard, I guess, over Walker-Peters. Was that because it was price sensitive at the time? You knew you were going to get the rise. Was the timing right, or was that the player that you preferred anyway?
I liked how high up Walker-Peters was getting. I wanted a little bit of a differential, if I'm honest. My team was relatively template, although it seems to score a lot less than everyone else's template team. But
join the club.
I just went for Vestergaard because his ownership was low. I thought he was going to help me climb up my mini leagues a little bit. And he and Bednarek are goal threats, like because of our corners and our free kicks, right? So I just went for those two because I felt that they were going to be offering just as much attacking threats as our fullback, which you can't maybe say for every team in the league.
Yeah, I think there'll be quite a few looking at Vestergaard this week. I mean, he's obviously got, I think it's 12 more points now, than Cole Walker-Peters this season. You got the perfect mix at the moment in terms of he's a unit, He's playing well, potential clean sheet on the board, nice home fixture, a threat at set pieces. Sheffield United, as Tom has said, are not good at them as they were last season. So I think you probably get more value out of him this week, I should imagine, mate. Would he be the one to buy rather than Walker Peters still, in your opinion?
Yeah, I think he would. The only thing letting him down is he doesn't really get the bonus points. I'm just looking at him here. He's only got 2 bonus points, and they were both one when he scored, one when he kept a clean sheet. He's not really a bonus point addict like some centre-backs when they keep a clean sheet and they get them for like their passing.
But he needs to combo to both, I should imagine, because obviously if he scores at a weekend and clean sheet, then that's when you're looking at a 15-pointer potentially.
That's it, yeah. But I think he's the way to go. He or Bednarek, to be fair. I just went for Vestergaard, just a bit of a coin flip, really. I like both our centre-backs.
What's the expectations for the season now, Ali? Is Europe possible?
Yeah, but I sound quite defeatist when I say I'm not sure. I'm just not sure we're quite ready for that. Like, I would always have in the back of my head, I'm a bit worried for next season now, because if we were to finish in Europe, like, it's a long way off, but do we have the squad depth to handle those games? As exciting as it would be, I would hate to see us struggle for relegation. I'd just like to see us sort of consolidate our place in the top 10, make a couple of signings and just go from there, really, rather than sort of run before we can walk.
On squad depth, I've got an answer for that. Until you get there, you won't know, mate. That's the answer.
That is true. And I mean, maybe the signing of Walcott, where I said, does he improve our starting 11? And I didn't really think he did. Well, maybe, you know, in Europe, that's where that kind of comes in, where you've got a selection of wingers that are giving the manager a bit of a headache.
Well, he's remarkably, I think you and I both wrote him off when the signing was kind of announced. You think, well, he's done nothing at Everton.
Bit old.
He's covered you in 3 positions, basically. Yeah, so he's done a great little turn for you. I think it's remarkable that Redmond, the fact he's been missing, has hardly been noticed.
Yeah.
Gineppo, every time I watch him, I change my opinion. Honestly, 1 week I think, oh, he's a baller, he's got something. Yeah. And then I watch him Monday night, I think, was you playing? So he seems to, my opinion's constantly changing him. I don't think it's an FPL asset.
No, I think, sometimes he's got like shades of Sofiane Boufal when he was dribbling past everyone. But then, like, he's kind of like that kid on your Sunday league team that's doing all the stepovers in the middle of the park but it's going nowhere kind of thing. Like, he looks better than he is, I think.
Squad depth though, mate.
That's it, bud, yeah.
Thanks very much, guys. Before we finish up, let's do predictions. Ali, you're the home team. Off you go.
Yeah, I think as much as I like Sheffield United, I want to see them get off the mark, not against us. I do think we're going to win this. I'll go 3-1.
He's predicted a goal, Tom. How will you?
1-0 Southampton.
Yeah, I'll go 2-0. I can't look beyond the difference between the two teams at the moment. But do you know what, Tomo? It's one like this, when you don't expect it, go there, get the 1-0. Even if you don't deserve it, would be even better. And then suddenly it turns and the fixtures start to look better. I think in any other season, mate, I'd say you were finished. But I don't necessarily think that the 3 teams that are above you are particularly better. And I think they're catchable. You have got to start scoring goals. Have to do that, or you've got no chance.
What do you think it's going to be?
What, to stay up?
Yeah.
I think he needs one of you to break out. Obviously, look, if one of you goes on a run and wins 3 and draws 1 in 4, which, to be honest, every year Burnley have a period like that. Every single year. Then that number will go up. At the moment, I think it's highly likely that to stay up will be less than the 34 points, which is the lowest. Highly likely it will be. I think 34 points will probably be enough to stay up.
I agree.
I think it could even be as low as sort of 31, 32.
Yeah.
You don't see anyone winning back-to-back games or scoring enough goals. Fulham are so interesting because they're the ones of the 4 that look, I know they're probably the worst, but they're the one of the 4 you think, they score goals.
They've scored more than anyone else in the bottom 4, haven't they, at the moment, I think?
They'll probably concede the most as well, by the way.
So I'm just looking here. They've conceded 21. West Brom have conceded 23. But Fulham have scored 11, which is 3 more than anyone else down there. So, that, that's where you say Sheffield United have got to start scoring goals, because that's obviously doing Fulham a little bit of good, even though they do look pretty shabby.
That said, what did you score last season, Tomo? 28 goals last season? I think so.
Was it 28 goals?
I think, yeah, 28 goals you scored last year. So it wasn't a problem last year, was it? so maybe if you fix defensively and you start winning games 1-0 and drawing games 1-1 rather than losing them 2-1, maybe that will solve the problem as well. I mean,
what
massive,
you need?
Massive period, Tomo.
And I hope it comes this weekend for you. You need a proper 9-0 drumming. That's what you need. A kick up the arse, and then your season, mate, will just turn.
Very well said, Ali. You've got no chance, mate.
Oh, we have got no chance.
Guys, thank you so much. Always a pleasure. Have a great Christmas. Thanks for giving up your time for us. You can follow Ali at FPL_Gaffer on Twitter, and you can follow Tomo at FPL_Blade. So I need some positive tweets from you, mate. I hope they come really soon. Whenever you got Arsenal, must be soon, mate. Come on, do something about it. Next week's Clash of Correspondents, guys, will be on Tuesday. We're going to get this in before the midweek fixtures of game week 13. So I've got the Tinkermen and FPL Seagull joining me. I'll be out early on Tuesday to preview Fulham and Brighton next Tuesday. That'll be. Other than that, thanks very much again to Ali and to Tomo. Good luck for the weekend, everyone. I'll be streaming on YouTube at 9 on Friday and again at 5:30. Cue music, please, man child.